Welcome to Shopper Matters, a podcast brought to you by the Independent Grocers Alliance. And now your host, Michael Kier.
Hello and welcome to Shopper Matters, the podcast exploring the fast-paced omnichannel world of retail and insights about consumers and shopper behavior that brands need to know to connect more effectively. I'm Michael Kier, the Vice President of Brand Development for the Independent Grocers Alliance. If you're not familiar with IGA, we're the world's largest network of independently owned and operated grocery stores with 7,500 stores worldwide and 2,600 stores here in the US. I'll be your guide on this journey through the trends, challenges, and opportunities shaping how people shop and buy both here and globally. Shopper Matters is designed to bring you insights from industry leaders, actionable advice, and the latest thinking on what drives today's shoppers. We want to highlight the challenges brands face and the opportunities that come from truly understanding how people live, shop, and make decisions. So whether you're a brand manager, a retailer, or just passionate about the future of omnichannel marketing, the Shopper Matters podcast is here to share knowledge from the front lines of the industry and hopefully spark some new ideas to help your business. So let's dive in and uncover what really drives success in this dynamic industry. Let's talk about what matters today. Today's guest is Melissa Carrick, Social Media Director at AR Marketing. AR Marketing is a marketing agency that plays a major role in helping independent grocery retailers strengthen their social media presence and connect with shoppers where they spend their most time. Melissa leads the social media team that supports many grocers, and she's the force behind some of the strongest success stories we've seen in using paid social to increase engagement, generate leads, and drive online and, importantly, in-store activity too. Melissa brings a unique blend of strategic marketing expertise, category insight, and digital-first thinking to grocery brands. Melissa, welcome.
Hi, Michael. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so let's start out by, if you could tell us a little bit about your background, what brought you into social media marketing, your career trajectory, and how you found your way into the grocery and CPG space.
Yeah, believe it or not, when I was in college for public relations and marketing, I didn't even know that social media could be a job. And it wasn't like that long ago, but I had no idea where I could end up. But I started in marketing, and I was actually a marketing coordinator for Sodexo. If you're familiar with them, Yep. They do a lot of dining services for universities and other businesses. So that was kind of my first into food marketing, and I really enjoyed all things food. But as a solo marketing coordinator, I think I found that it's a lot of work. You're in charge of, social, digital, email, graphic design. So then I really found my niche in social media, and that's how I kind of ended up at AR.
Gotcha. So let's talk about AR for a little bit. AR Marketing's been a trusted partner to the IGA family for nearly 10 years at this point, managing social media for many of our retailers nationwide. Can you talk briefly about some of the areas that your team focuses in on?
Yes, we do a lot. We are a full service agency. So there's the graphic design side, the digital side, and the social media side. So I am the director of social media, as you said. So that includes everything from social media management, paid advertising, monitoring, so responding back to all of your customer chatter. And then we also are in charge of your Google listings. So sometimes people forget about the reputation side of things, but we're making sure all of your Google listings are correct. And then we respond to reviews there as well.
Yeah, reputation management is super important. I know that recently over the Thanksgiving weekend, I was looking for stores and hours and stuff like that, and found actually, I had to call 3 or 4 of them because their hours weren't updated and things were just a mess.
Yes, and that is exactly what we do. We make sure your holiday hours are updated because I'm the same way. I definitely want to look and see that they are so I know where to go on holidays.
Yeah, I love how Google will say, knowing that retailers and businesses don't update those, right? Holiday hours may vary. By the way, it's Yes. Thanksgiving in case you didn't realize it.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's dive into the topic at hand today. So social media is maybe back in the Sodexo days was a lot about likes and brand awareness. But today it's increasingly about driving action. So for retail, that's store trips, that's online orders, that's baskets. So in this episode, we want to dig deep into how brands and obviously grocery retailers with your focus and ours are using social for that real shopper impact. So when we get started, let's talk broadly. From your vantage point, working with multiple retailers and brands, what are the biggest shifts you've seen from a people standpoint? How are people using social media when it comes to food, groceries, and meal inspiration?
Yeah, I love what you said. It used to be so simple, just get some likes and just post your family and your friends. And it's really just about engagement. And we've really come a long way to where they're expecting so much more on social. They're expecting to have a seamless shopper experience. They don't even want to leave the app if they want to buy something. So the shift has really come from like impressions to just being online to being able to make a shopper experience easy and seamless. And we really take pride in being able to track those things and get people into the store from online. But another major shift that I've noticed recently is the way that people search has changed. So 47% of Gen Z actually uses social media as a search engine as opposed to like Google. So they're looking for inspiration on TikTok, Instagram. They're using that more when they're looking for like meals for dinner, stuff like that. So they're really seeing a shift in like the way consumers find you.
So you said Gen Z is looking for inspiration. We'll come back to some differences between the generations in a second.
Yeah.
But, at one point when I was earlier in my career, probably well before your Sodexo time, one of the things that we talked a lot about was mobile to some extent is like boredom management, right? You're standing in line, you pull out your phone, you go through social media. You talked about seeking inspiration. Any thoughts on how often people are using social media more for like that spearfishing? So I am looking for inspiration for something versus, hey, I'm just wasting time, and then it might turn into a purchase or turn into some inspiration.
Well, I think that's what happens is they don't even know that they're looking for it, but then that's how they find it. So it's not so much like sale marketing, like this is on sale, we want you to buy it. It's kind of more subliminal, like here's a really aesthetic recipe video that we're making, and all of a sudden you're watching it and then you're like, oh, this brand, this store made this, and like maybe I'll go shop there because they are showing me the inspiration. So it's like less about selling and more about just creating content that they're interested in. And so like I said, they're using it for search. So they're searching, even restaurants near me, or they're looking for vacations, or they're looking for meal prep inspiration. And that really curates the For You page for them. So they're finding more of that content. So knowing what your customers are looking for and then creating that content to show up where they are is really important now.
Yeah. So going back to your comment about Gen Z, so are there demographic or other generational trends that stand out for you in terms of how people engage with grocery related content on social media?
For sure. I mean, the obvious one is everyone knows, Facebook, older generation, TikTok, younger generation. But you're really seeing kind of emerge in that. They're all over. They're everywhere online. That's kind of the easiest differentiating factor is the channels that they're on. But there's also, the way that we used to show up for the older generations is print. They were getting the newspaper. That's where you're advertising to them. And that's a little bit dead. I know people don't love to hear that, but you have to show up where your shoppers are. So they've moved online. They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they're on TikTok, and just figuring out what is your demographic and which one are they on.
Yeah, and I think just to clarify though, those wide swaths you said of, hey, TikTok, younger generation, Facebook, I mean, all generations are on all platforms, but heavier usage is on those platforms that you talked about, correct?
For sure. And I think what's important too is like time management, and you can't do it all. So if you had to pick a channel, I think picking the right one for your demographic is really important.
Gotcha. So we talked about the shift from likes to impressions and stuff like that. I think there's also a shift from viewing social media as more I guess for lack of a better term, art, right, versus science. We talk about marketing as marketing, art, science, et cetera. I think social media marketing, same thing. Like there's a tremendous amount more science behind social media, just given data and all the things that we can tell. So what shopper behaviors or insights, so that could be, like you said, inspiration, moment of discovery, purchase triggers, intent, should marketers pay attention to when crafting those social media strategies?
I think it's really important to pay attention to trends. So like I was talking about, where are people searching, where are they looking, but also what is influencing them to buy. So for instance, influencers, who are they following that they're like, oh, I really like this content and they're inspiring me to purchase. And why is that? It's because it's relatable content. Same thing with like UGC. People love seeing other people enjoying a product and then that inspires them to buy. So I think it's really important about how you can influence them, but not like hard sell them.
Yeah, I think nobody likes being sold to, regardless of generation, and the more people
so
hit you over the head, buy now, buy now, buy now. It's probably more of a turnoff than a inspiration, to your point.
Yeah, so it's almost like inspiring them to buy before they even are thinking about buying.
So given that, let's talk about the role and value of social media for retail. And obviously we're grounded in grocery to a large extent, but back in my day at Coca-Cola, we used to talk about different zones of messaging. And so like, if you're standing in front of the meat case, for instance, sometimes a recipe would be good, but, probably, perhaps a pricing message is better versus when you're walking in the store. If you talk, you want a message that's going to inspire somebody to get into the back versus, maybe just saying, 99-cent ground beef, right? There's different messages that play different roles. So let's talk about the role and value of social media for grocery. So how would you describe the role that social media plays in the overall omni-channel strategy?
Well, I think it's really unique because like you talked about, in-store messaging is so important. And I think omni-channel is so important so that your messaging online matches in store. So when they show up, they get what they expect. But it's unique because I think it's really the only channel where it's like a two-way conversation. It's a community that you're building. So when you're sending out, a print ad, or if you are even doing Google ads or email, it's a one-way message. Whereas social media, like you're inviting that conversation and you're kind of building a community. So I think that's what's so unique about this approach and so valuable for local grocers because they have so much to share.
So from your perspective then, what are some of the common challenges that local grocers have when it comes to building an effective social media program? I mean, you talked about inspiration, you talked about like there's all these different things. Like what challenges do you hear from when you're starting to work with somebody in the space?
Time. I mean, I think that's a very common one. Local grocers, local businesses of any, they're playing so many roles. They're wearing so many different hats. And so with social media being as evolved as it is, it's really hard to sit down and focus on what needs to be done or what needs posted or responding to the customer online when they have a million other things to do. So I think time is such a struggle for local independents.
Yeah, I think one of the other things you said earlier about community and the two-way street, I think that a lot of times people I just want to push the content out there, right? And then hope or think that if I just do maybe half the story, it'll work. So talk about the role of, I guess, responding when people connect back on social.
Yeah, it can be a full-time job. It is here. We have a whole monitoring team. And as you know, social media is always on. So they're always commenting, they're always responding. And there's been a shift too in customer service. People expect to be able to DM you and get a response and have you help them on social media instead of having to know, like maybe email you or reach out through your website. They want that instantaneous help. So that can be very time consuming in itself.
Yeah. So one of the things we hear sometimes is, I'm running my business. I've got a lot of stuff going on. We're doing a lot of stuff in marketing. Social media might be nice to have, but not essential, especially if budgets are tight, so that might be a budget financially, might be a budget, as you said, of time. So what's, I guess, for lack of a better term, what's the argument you use with retailers or even CPG brands to show that social media should be a part of their core strategy?
Yeah.
Well, first, should it be a part of their core strategy? And then how do you
Well, I think you know what I'm going to say. Yeah. And like I said, I think it's a non-negotiable at this point. Your customers are on social media, so you want to be where your customers are. I think that's the biggest argument, is why wouldn't you be there? Because they are there. But another thing is, as much as I love paid social, there's still room for organic social. And so if you think about it, social media is one of your cheapest platforms, and it's one of the cheapest ways to get your message out, especially when you think about the reach of TikTok. I mean, TikTok is a free platform to use. You can create great content and put it out there, and you can reach millions of people for free. So if you think about it, I mean, of course, I'm going to recommend a paid spend, but there's still a role for organic on all channels.
So let's dive deeper into that. So how do you define the role of organic versus paid?
So I think organic is like the must have, like you're saying, like if it's a non-negotiable, I think you have to do it. Paid, if you have the budget, it's highly recommended. You do need to pay to play. It just is what it is. And especially if you're looking for more than just community engagement, that's where organic comes in. Community engagement, local posts, highlighting your employees. That's great organic content that people want to see and engage with. But if you are looking for conversions, shoppers, loyalty signups, that's where paid comes in, and it's very beneficial.
So the role you mentioned within organic, a whole bunch of different things, whether that's highlighting employees, or we've talked recipes, we've talked about specials and promotions, etc. I probably know the answer to this, but I'll ask the question, like, what resonates the most across the board? And should you be doing all those different things? How do you, especially with the time constraints that we talked about, how do you juggle all that? So if I should do one thing, what should it be?
Yeah. Well, I love a mixed strategy. So it's everything I said, it's like, if you could do all of that, great. But like you said, time is such a constraint. I do think when it comes to independence, focusing on that local content is your differentiator. If you can't win in price, you can win in customer service, the people in your store, how you engage with the community, the nonprofits you partner with. Local independents are doing so much, and it should be shared. And that's going to win you customers over some of the national chains, in my opinion.
So we talked about the local nature, and that was actually going to be my next question. So you're reading my mind here.
Yeah.
But you said, hey, we can reach millions of people on TikTok, right? So you've got both local and the opportunity to go global, I guess, if you will. Yeah. So how important is that local community level customization for grocery shopper marketing, especially for independents with strong local roots?
Yeah. I think, like I said, I think it's the differentiator. So I think it's extremely important. Even if you have 150 stores, it's still important somehow to pull out those local roots that are happening at each store. There's a story in every single store. It's great storytelling content. And again, it's what people want to see. People want to see people, and they relate to people. And so anytime you can talk about, the deli clerk who's been there for 50 years and everyone loves to come in and see her and she makes the best sandwich or whatever that is, like, that's the type of stuff that gets attention.
Yeah, there was a recent campaign. Someone from Australia saw, I think it was like a 80-plus-year-old cashier at a store who couldn't retire, and this guy from Australia raised like $1.5 million so that this guy could retire. So you talk about the power of local,
the power of social media. Yeah.
Yeah, the local story. Yes. And resonated across the globe, and quite
that's the authenticity of social media that's so important. So, not pushing all of these messages of actions that you want people to do, but really creating a connection and a community with them and making them feel like they know the people who work at the store. So, yeah. So
I'd probably be remiss on behalf of some of our listeners, Melissa, if I didn't say that, hey, that seems a little frou-frou, right? I'm trying to sell groceries. I'm trying to sell
Yeah,
clothes.
let's
I'm
get
trying to
real.
sell whatever the category. So, I didn't really mean that. But so let's talk about like some real examples and what works and best practices. So, again, this is kind of a broad question, but what channels or platforms do you see delivering the strongest value for grocers compared to other channels?
Yeah, and surprising, I think people would be surprised by this, but I love Facebook for grocery. I think it is the best channel to use for local advertising. It's almost like having a Google listing. People are going to look for you on Facebook as well, and they should be able to find you, and they should be able to find your information there. And then when it comes to advertising, it's one of the cheaper channels, but it also is very powerful in getting people to do actions like signing up for loyalty, etc.
So going back to what we talked about earlier, one of the, I guess, rubs of physical retail in general, and I know you're talking about driving sales on both e-com and in store, is that, shoppers are aging out. And so younger shoppers aren't necessarily coming in. So as you talk about Facebook being a powerful tool, does that go across generations?
Yeah, I'm guilty of not going to the store. I like to get my groceries delivered. So that's why I think it's so important to meet your customers where they are, which is online. And if we're kind of tailoring to the younger shopper, they're looking for a seamless shopping experience. They're looking to be able to purchase things without even leaving the app at this point. And so paid social is really great for that. We do around the holidays a lot of catering campaigns, selling party trays online. They don't even have to leave the app. They can select the thing they want from the ad, purchase right there, and then pick it up at the store. So finding ways to adapt, I guess, to how people are shopping is really important.
Yeah, you should have told me about that party tray before Thanksgiving. So maybe we should have had this call earlier.
Hey, Christmas is coming.
Yeah. There you go. So let's get super, super practical. So based on your work at AR Marketing, I'd love to hear some examples from some of the clients, retailers, about what types of social content campaigns have truly moved the needle on trips and transactions.
Yeah. One of my favorite campaigns I've done recently was for a grocery retailer with 10 stores, and they wanted to do a loyalty campaign. And so what I loved so much about this is it hit consumers everywhere. So we did a mailer, and then we did in-store signage, social media ads, emails. So it's omni-channel. We're hitting them everywhere. The messaging they see online, they see in store. And the goal is to offer good prices, but also get people to sign up for loyalty. So it's like, we're going to give you these good deals, but you should sign up for loyalty because then you'll always get great deals. So that was a lead campaign that we did on social media. They also, had customer service in store asking people to sign up. But with the power of social media ads and targeting the right people, we had over like 700 loyalty signups. And then their sales lifted 5 to 12% across the 10 stores. So those are real numbers. And that's, I think, what retailers need to hear, because it's not the impressions, it's not the likes, we have real signups and we have real sales data.
Yeah, so I think you're talking about meta lead ads, right? In terms of
Yes.
being able to capture orders, capture customer information. So let's talk about that, because I know there's still, I guess, maybe a bias or misunderstanding about sort of who owns the data. And, if something happens on social, I can't necessarily connect that back to either my loyalty program or the store. So you talk about sort of how that, with the lead ads, how data works.
Mm-hmm. Well, so the biggest thing is tracking. It's really important that you're able to put a pixel on your website. So that's how we track these things. We put a meta pixel on your website, and we can track the buttons that people are clicking. So we know when they hit submit form, they have filled out and signed up for loyalty. So that's how we tracked those signups. And then it's always great to correlate with the store of we see 50 signups at this store. Are you seeing that data as well? So I like to make sure we're matching the data that we're getting online to in-store as well.
Right. And if you have loyalty data, then you can actually match up the two.
Right. Yep. And you can use, the great thing about when you are able to get that loyalty data, you can integrate it into Facebook. So you can upload email lists, and you can target those people specifically, or you can target people like them. So it's really great to grow that database and use it on social.
Yeah, it really becomes a virtuous cycle. So you're building on one campaign to the next, et cetera. So those who bought you from those stores at Thanksgiving, right, you go back to them at Christmas, right? We know they're likely to buy. You find
Exactly.
other people.
Yeah, and then the same if people are not shopping. You can do a lost shoppers campaign. We've noticed that you haven't been shopping with us in a while. How can we target those people and get them back?
Yeah. So can you walk us through then, I guess, the typical structure of a high performing campaign on either Facebook or Instagram? So really from creative to optimization, the best practices your team has found.
Yeah, the biggest thing in the beginning is figuring out the client's goals. So what do you want from this, whether it is impressions or you're looking for sales? Most of the time, everyone's like, I would love sales. So then the next thing is honing in on your audience, making sure the targeting is right. Most of the time for grocery, especially local, it's pretty simple to get the audience because it's going to be your location and then maybe a 30-mile radius because we're looking at some small towns so people aren't driving too far. So then we get the audience going, but creative is really so important and kind of where the magic happens. How can you stop the scroll? Right now, video is so hot. Everyone loves video. So we might do some reels, or also carousels are really big. A lot of people are familiar with, you're scrolling on Instagram. You're like, oh, I like these shoes. All of a sudden you're sliding through, you're looking at all the shoes, and that's how it starts, then all of a sudden you're shopping. So we do a lot of carousels as well. But then we do ad testing, as you mentioned, optimization. So is the video working? Is the carousel working? And then go from there.
Yeah. So you talked about the importance of setting the right objectives. Overall, everyone wants sales and dollars and stuff like that, but are there other metrics that matter when you're measuring success?
Yes. So what I think really resonates with our clients is giving them cost per click. So this is how much it costs for this many clicks to your website. And then also obviously return on ad spend. This is how much we spent and this is what you gained from that. And with the loyalty campaign that I mentioned earlier, I think it cost $7 per sign up. And so when you think about that, that means $7 per new customer, essentially. And so that's a pretty cheap price for a new customer, especially when you consider basket size is probably, $25 to $50. So we spent $7 on a new customer. So that really resonates with grocers when you can break down the numbers like that.
Yeah. So looking across the retailers you support, what insights about some of the results stand out when it comes to driving those, real customer actions that, a retailer would find more tangible, like you said, hey, loyalty signups, e-com purchase, catering. What other insights do you have in terms of things that the retailers should be doing?
Well, I think those are the big ones, because if you can, track, you're spending this much and you're getting this on return, showing a return on investment is always very valuable. But like I said before, depending on their goals, showing sometimes the engagement rate, that can be important. Or I actually think new followers is great too, because you're building that community. New followers can definitely turn into new customers. So that one is kind of an easy thing to track, but I think it's still valuable.
Gotcha. And then I'd be remiss as we talk about like new followers and shop. We talk about customer service. And so are there any best practices for customer service that retailers should be aware of on social media?
Yeah, we have a lot of tips for customer service. It's like I said before, they're expecting really quick response times. So if you're available, I think it's a great customer service tool to be able to, DM back and forth and resolve issues. If you're not, I think it's great to set up an automatic responder of like, this is where you can best reach us if it's not going to be social media. Or, maybe hire an intern who can, or someone in the store who can respond to these things. But you do see kind of a lot of people complaining online more. I think it gets worse and worse with people, taking their problems online. And so you may have, a lot of claims about produce that wasn't fresh, expired products on the shelves, and people are taking that online and it's there for everyone to see. So I do think it's just good to keep an eye on things, whether you're, responding to take the conversation offline or hiding comments. So that's not, kind of tarnishing your reputation. And that's also why it's so important to respond to your Google reviews and give solutions, because as you know, people are pretty impressionable when they read a bad review. I think it takes like 10 positive reviews to ignore the one bad.
Yeah, I've got a trip coming up over Christmas, and looking at reviews has become super important, especially like for hotels and stuff like that. And you can, it does stand out whether that comment is positive or negative if, for instance, the hotel is responding and answering, or like, thank you for your feedback and we appreciate this. And in some cases, sorry that this happened. We wish you would have reached out. Like, you at least understand they're engaged, which I think makes a difference versus no comment at all.
Yes, or if you can tell if it's AI, responding back. It's another, unfortunately, I mean, AI can be very helpful, but it's something that you want to make feel very personable. And when grocers can offer solutions and say, yikes, that sounds like we messed up there and we want to look into that for you because that's not a normal experience that you should have. And they follow up with the customer directly. That's so impactful, and you most likely didn't lose that shopper.
Yeah, so you raised AI, so I guess I would not be a host worth my salt if I didn't ask about
who
AI.
Isn't talking about AI?
Yeah. So how's AR marketing using AI in the social media work that you guys are doing?
It's a great tool for there are some things to find automations for, looking for how it can make our jobs easier, but I don't think it'll ever take away, the creative process that we have. But one example would be 5-star reviews that come in with no context. We can create an automation to respond to those, still in the brand voice of the client and differentiating responses, but we don't have to take our time to sit there and craft a response to something that has no context. So we find little automations like that to make things a little quicker for our team.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Mm-hmm. What about on the buying side? I know Meta's got tools and stuff like that around AI, and I know I've heard differing feedback on how effective plugging in and using their systems are, and what, again, the issue with AI, right, is, what are the biases built into the system? What are the objectives? Is it just, hey, trying to get me to buy more?
Yeah, Meta's AI tools are the bane of my existence. It seems like every day they are offering something new that is not helpful to me. And they're really tricky about it too, because anything that's new is automatically turned on. So they're automatically suggesting that you spend more. They're automatically suggesting that you spend more on other campaigns that you're not even working on. They are automatically adding in text that might not be your brand voice. So I actually spend more time turning off the automations because they don't seem to be helpful. And especially when it comes to local level, because one of their suggestions would be to broaden your reach. So all of a sudden your message is being seen somewhere that it doesn't apply to. And so maybe for national brands, these AI tools are helpful because they have bigger audiences. But what I have found is they're not very helpful.
Yeah, there was, we recently, we're about to hire a role, and we used LinkedIn, and LinkedIn, after 20 applicants said, you're done with the free thing. If you want to get more candidates, we think you can get 50 more candidates if you spend $150 a day. And, I like gaming the system. So I went and I wanted to put in $1 a day to see what would happen. And, the system's like, no, you must at least do $8 a day. So I'm like, wait a second. They wanted me to spend $142 more per day to get 50 people. And then after 2 days, I turned it off. So I spent $16 and got over 500 applicants. So obviously some of that may be AI based applicants, but if I had followed their advice, only 2 days, I would have spent an extra $300. So
and you're right. You might get more results because that's what all the AI tools are aimed to do. More link clicks, more likes, more followers. Who are those people? Are they actual valuable customers? Are they the right people? So that's why targeting is just so important, because yes, you can say, oh, I have 1 million followers, but are they customers? Are they loyal to your brand? Are they bots? Yeah,
I think that makes a ton of sense in terms of, hey, if you're a national brand everywhere or whatever, great. But, as we're talking about retail, retail by nature is local. And so whether you're a large grocery chain or a small grocery chain, you still have your trading area. And so it's important to kind of have that, I guess, human minding the machine versus just the machine doing it, and understanding what that machine is trying to get you to do.
And they're always trying to get you to spend more money.
Oh, no way. I can't believe that.
Yeah.
So we talk about AI, and obviously those tools will continue to evolve into the future and hopefully get better, but we'll see. But how do you see social media overall evolving, especially for independent grocers over the next few years, especially as customers expect, as you said earlier, more seamless omni-channel experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're not on social with your business right now, you're already very behind, unfortunately. So I think it's only, like you said, it's only gonna get more advanced on the way that we expect to purchase things, on the advertising we're seeing, on the content we're creating. So like I said, video is very popular. People engage with that more. So we're gonna see more video on all platforms. And then just more seamless shopping experiences, in my opinion.
Okay. So as we close, you've been great in terms of giving great tidbits along the way. But if you had to give only one or two clear recommendations today, besides get on social, for brands that are looking to build out a smarter social media strategy. So let's assume they're on social, right? What would those one or two things be? Something simple, practical, high impact.
Yeah, number one, just call us. We'll help you with all of it. That's the easiest thing to do. But no, I think the biggest thing that I always talk about is knowing your audience, picking a channel that's right for them and for you, and then doing that one channel well, because you can't do everything. So I think if you know that you are going to make great video content, awesome. That would be great for TikTok. If you are like, I don't have time to create video content, I'm just going to start posting. I'm going to post on Facebook. That's great too. So I think it's just important. Know your audience, pick the channel that's best for your audience and you, and then post consistently. And like I said, there still is power in organic if you don't have the budget.
Melissa, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a very thoughtful and real-world conversation about the true power of social media to shape shopper behavior, build category demand, and drive, importantly, as we talked about, real retail outcomes. So how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Yeah, you should check out AR on social media. So AR is on Facebook, Instagram. We're really fun on TikTok. So you can find us there. Our website is a-rmarketing.com. You can find my contact there as well, or on LinkedIn.
Great. So for our listeners, if you found value in today's conversation on Shopper Matters, please subscribe, leave us a review, and consider sharing this episode with somebody who works in retail, marketing, or shopper insights. Until next time, I'm Michael Lockyer, and this has been Shopper Matters. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining the Shopper Matters podcast. If you like this episode, please subscribe so you'll automatically receive new episodes as they are released.